The world is full of mysteries, but these 13 might never be solved. Some are terrifying, some are forgotten, and some are still happening right now. Let's start without wasting time on the vanishing of Mary, Fanny, and Jessie Stewart. On December 10th, 1978, Mary Stewart and her two daughters, Fanny and Jessie, left their home in Honeydew, California, for a day of errands, specifically grocery shopping to get their TV repaired and the optometrist. The three did not make it home that night, so one of Mary's friends reported them missing. Police checked with local optometrists and TV repair places, asking if they'd seen the Stewart girls, but none had. Almost a month later, their car was found on an old logging road just a few miles from their home. Detectives found their bags of groceries and a now repaired TV inside, and noticed the car's gas line was broken. There was no sign of the family, nor were there indications of foul play. The prime suspect in the case was Byron McGray Stewart, Mary's husband and the girl's father. He had a history of violence and aggression, but police did not have enough evidence to tie the case to him. While it was reopened in 2009, the case remains unsolved, and Mary, Fanny, and Jessie have never been found. 2. The Great Kentucky Meat Shower, or the Kentucky Shower of Flesh. On the 3rd of March in 1876, large chunks of fresh meat, most of which were about 5 by 5 centimeters, rained down from the sky in Olympia Springs, Kentucky, like large snowflakes. It was not actually raining, though in fact, the sky was crystal clear, minus the chunks of flesh falling from it. 2 local men tasted the strange meat and believed it was either venison or mutton. Later, 2 histologists analyzed the meat and determined it, or at least the pieces they had access to, was made up of lung tissue, muscular tissue, and cartilage. What exactly happened in Kentucky that day remains a mystery, though there have been several hypotheses. One of which is that the meat was actually nostoc, which is a gelatinous bacteria also known as witch butter or star slubber that swells and floats when it rains. As previously stated, it was a perfectly clear day when the meat rained down, so most aren't too convinced about the supposed explanation. Other theories range from it being projectile vulture vomit or alien flesh from a UFO explosion in space. 3. The Tunguska Mystery. At a little after 7 in the morning on June 30th, 1908, residents near the Podkamanaya Tunguska River in rural Romania reported seeing a smoking fireball in the sky, an incredibly bright flash of light, a loud boom, and felt themselves being blown into the air. Some reported going unconscious and that their homes were destroyed. Trees in the area were flattened and burned. According to Scientific American, other parts of the world experienced huge silver clouds, spectacularly colored sunsets, and bright skies even in the dead of night. Expeditions did not make it to the region until 1927 due to a variety of factors, including the area being difficult to get to, WI, and the Russian Revolution. When they finally did, they did not find the source of the explosion. There was no impact site, no bolide, nothing, just the destruction it left behind. Today, most scientists believe it was an asteroid or comet gunning for Earth that was vaporized in the mid-air explosion, explaining the lack of evidence found in the area. Later expeditions found microscopic particles that were definitely from somewhere in space, though scientists couldn't determine what exactly they'd come from. Others, however, believe perhaps there's a more paranormal explanation for the blast, like aliens. 4. The Mysterious Green Children of Woolpit. The legend is that 2 children with green skin reportedly appeared in the village of Woolpit in Suffolk, England, around 1150. The brother and sister duo spoke in an unknown language and refused to eat anything but raw fava beans. They were taken to the home of a man named Richard de Kahn, who, over time, slowly got them to consume other foods and learn to speak English. Eventually, their skin lost its green color. When asked where they came from, they claimed to be from the land of St. Martin, where the sun doesn't rise. They didn't know how they got to Woolpit, but recalled that on a certain day, when we were feeding our father's flocks in the fields, we heard a great sound, such as we are now accustomed to hear at St. Edmund's when the bells are chiming. And whilst listening to the sound in admiration, we became on a sudden, as it were, entranced, and found ourselves among you in the fields where you were weeping. The children were then baptized, and the boy died shortly after due to an unknown illness. The girl stayed with Richard. 5. The Lost Girls of Panama. In April of 2014, two Dutch women, Chris Kremers and Lizanne Froome, were hiking the Del Pianista Trail near Baquet, Panama. They were in the region to volunteer at a local school and learn Spanish. They were informed that their assistance wasn't needed for another week, so they decided to explore the area in the meantime. Unfortunately, neither Chris nor Lizanne ever returned from that hike. Search parties were sent out but came back empty-handed. 2 months later, Lizanne's left foot, which had been detached at the ankle, was found in her hiking boot. Chris's pelvis was also discovered, split in two. Later, locals found Lizanne's backpack, which held their brass phones, $87 in cash, and a Canon PowerShot camera. The camera had dozens of strange photos on it, most of which were taken at night, dated a week after the women initially disappeared. Not much is known about what happened to Lizanne and Chris. According to police, the duo asked an innkeeper for directions before their hike, and later that day asked for assistance returning to town. It was the last time they were seen. Still here? That means you're just as obsessed with mysteries as we are. Hit that follow or subscribe button, because the weirdest ones are still coming. 6. The whereabouts of Byron Price's treasure. In 1982, Bryson Price published The Secret Treasure Hunt, a fantasy book about the fair people, which were creatures like dragons, fairies, goblins, and the like who fled the old world for the human world and brought heaps of treasure with them. In the book, Byron invites readers to find the 12 lost treasures of the fair people, which he actually hid across North America. Through a series of 12 paintings, verses, and riddles, Byron and his team hint at the locations of 12 ceramic casks containing keys. Upon the discovery and redemption of a key, since its publication, only 3 of the 12 treasures have been found, one in Chicago in 1984, one in Cleveland in 2004, and one in Boston in 2019. According to the clues, the others are believed to be buried in New Orleans, New York City, San Francisco, Houston, Roanoke, Charleston, St. Augustine, and Montreal. 7. The disappearance of Jody Husentruid. Jody was a morning news anchor at KIMT-TV, a news station in Mason City, Iowa. On the morning of June 27, 1995, Jody didn't show up to work. A producer called her, and, frazzled, she said she'd overslept and would be in a SEPI. The producer called again later, but she didn't pick up the phone or show up to work that day. So, they called the police for a welfare check. They found a bottle of hairspray, a pair of red shoes, and a blow dryer next to Jody's red Mazda Miata. There were signs of a struggle at the scene, including a bent car key and handprints on the car. In an unexpected twist, private investigator Steve Ridge later revealed that the red Mazda wasn't even Jody's car. She'd planned to buy it but hadn't actually paid for it prior to her disappearance. Jody's mother purchased the car after her death. Neither Jody nor a suspect was ever found, and to this day, we still do not know what exactly happened that morning. With Jody being well known to the public, though, her case quickly became the topic of many rumors. One particularly popular one revolves around the budding romance of Jody's prior to her disappearance. The relationship was allegedly very new, so much so that her friends and family didn't know about it yet. While Ridge doesn't believe the man she was seeing was involved in her disappearance, he did think it was possible that a frequent viewer or admirer found out about him, or simply that she was dating and grew jealous. potentially giving them a motive for an abduction. 8. The Taos hum. In Taos, New Mexico, some residents report hearing an inexplicable low-frequency humming noise, which they describe as sounding like a swarm of bees or the humming of a truck. The noise, which has been reported since 1993, is usually heard when the surrounding atmosphere is quiet and still. Hearing an unexplainable noise like this isn't a unique occurrence. It's been the complaint of residents in several cities across the globe. How Taos differs, however, is that nobody has figured out where the sound is coming from. In the 90s, an engineering professor at the University of New Mexico did a study and found that only 2% of Taos residents heard the hum. They set up equipment in their homes, hoping to record vibrational, electromagnetic, and auditory data, but they found nothing. The Air Force's local laboratory did their own research and also came up empty. Possible explanations for the humming noise vary, ranging from the psychological to the paranormal. Everything from mass tinnitus to underground UFO bases to government mind control experiments have been thrown around. Some particularly spiritual residents feel as though the hum is pulling them in, making them feel one with the land and nearby Sangre de Cristo Mountains. Others believe that because such a small portion of the population hears it, it's meant to drive them out of the town. The less spiritual believe that the sound is simply people looking for something where there is nothing, their minds filling the space because they are expecting to hear something. 9. The rectangle galaxy. If you've ever seen an image of a galaxy in space, odds are you've seen something that either looks like a disk or some kind of blob. Well, astronomers from Australia, Swinburne University of Technology discovered a galaxy that doesn't quite fit the mold of what we reused to seeing. That galaxy is Lideo 74886, or the Emerald Cut Galaxy. Scientists aren't yet sure what precisely made this rectangular or diamond-shaped. Depending on how you look at it, galaxy look the way it does. But leading theories are around two disk galaxies colliding, or some gravitational tidal interaction. According to Dr. Alistair Graham at the university, is one of those things that just makes you smile because it shouldn't exist, or rather you don't expect it to exist. 10. The disappearance of Tiffany Sessions. On February 9, 1989, 20-year-old Tiffany left her home in Gainesville, Florida at 6 p.m. to take a walk. She was never seen or heard from again. 35 years later, neither Tiffany nor her remains have been found. It's suspected that Paul Rolls, a convicted rapist and murderer, may be responsible. In 2013, a detective received a box of Paul's personal belongings, including a black notebook. In it were references to Linda Frieda and Elizabeth Foster, two women whose murders he was linked to. The notebook also had a page with the date, the 9th of February '89, and the number 2 written on both sides, which some believe ties him to Tiffany's case, as that was the day she went missing, and the number 2 could imply she was his second victim. Unfortunately, detectives didn't link Paul to the case until after his death in 2013. 11. The mystery of the Phaistos disc. In 1908, the disc was discovered inside the Minoan Palace of Phaistos in Crete, Greece. On it are various pictograms featuring images of everything from people and plants to a bell and a cat's head. The images are arranged into 61 total groups, separated by lines drawn between the images. Many assume these groups are intended to represent words. The disc has long been a particularly fascinating mystery, as no one has been able to decipher what it says, let alone what its purpose was. Loads of theories have been floated, ranging from it being a prayer to a curse. According to Discovery UK, it's additionally being theorized to be all of the following things: a board game, a prayer to the Minoan earth goddess Aphia, a nursery rhyme, a magical spell, a poem, a hymn, a healing ritual, and a list of religious centers. 12. The disappearance of Branson Perry. In April of 2001, 20-year-old Branson was at his home in Skidmore, Missouri, with a family friend. Branson's dad had been in the hospital, so the two were getting the house ready for his return. Branson went to the shed near his family's home to put a pair of jumper cables back and simply never returned. He left all his belongings, including his car, behind. One officer on the case suspects Branson's disappearance may have been a drug-related kidnapping. In 2012, his stepfather purchased him a burial plot. While his name is on the headstone, the plot remains empty. 30. And finally, the perplexing Yonaguni Monument. Located off the coast of the Ryukyu Islands in Japan, is a series of rectangular rock formations that make up these strange pyramid-like structures 25 meters underwater. It's about 50 meters by 20 meters in total and kind of looks like giant carved steps. At first glance, it certainly seems man-made, so it makes sense that people have dubbed it Japan's Atlantis. According to scientists, the monument is estimated to be over 10,000 years old. Now, the mystery lies in who or what exactly created it. Some believe that the perfect, shelf-like structures were crafted by nature, gradually building up over time and aided by the region's frequent earthquakes. People in this school of thought often cite the giant causeway in Ireland as their proof, a similar, naturally formed structure. Others, however, believe that the monument's perfect 90th angles could only be man-made, perhaps by prehistoric civilization, likely the Jomon people, who could have inhabited the area as far back as 12,000 BC. Which one gave you chills? Which one do you think actually has an explanation? Drop your theory in the comments.